Hello, I'm Karen, an architect by profession. Precision, design, and vision have always been at the heart of my work. But today, I wasn't holding blueprints or sketches, I was stepping into a different kind of design, one I had dreamed of since girlhood. I was a bride, walking down the aisle, my heart pounding with equal parts joy and apprehension. Every detail around me, from the carefully arranged flowers to the hand-picked music that floated softly through the hall, reflected months of my planning. This was supposed to be the day where love was not just celebrated but immortalized. At the altar, my eyes fell on Terry, my soon-to-be husband. He was an engineer, steady and grounded, the opposite of my creative, sometimes whimsical spirit. That balance between us was what made me believe we were perfect for one another. Yet, as I drew closer, his expression shifted. There was a flicker of concern in his eyes, something I brushed off as nerves. After all, who didn't feel overwhelmed on their wedding day? But then my gaze shifted. Just behind Terry, his mother Melissa stood with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She leaned toward a relative and whispered something, her lips curling slightly as if she were in on a private joke. That look unsettled me. Melissa had always been polite, courteous even, but beneath her compliments, I sensed something sharper, something territorial. The ceremony went on, but the unease lingered. Terry's vows sounded rehearsed, stripped of warmth, as though he were reciting lines rather than speaking from the heart. His "I do" came with a hesitation, subtle but unmistakable. During the ring exchange, Melissa snapped pictures incessantly, her voice cutting in at odd moments. "Stand closer, oh, don't block her dress, it's actually quite unique." She meant it as praise, but the faint twist in her tone left me with goosebumps. At the reception, her commentary continued. "Karen, the dress is beautiful," she said with her signature smile. "So different, so modern. I suppose that's what makes it special." I nodded politely, masking my discomfort, determined not to let her steal the joy of my moment. But when Terry intervened, it wasn't with the firm support I longed for. Instead, he muttered, "Mom, let's just give Karen some space," with the tone of a son trying to placate his mother, not a husband standing with his wife. It struck me then, this wasn't just a wedding, it was the opening move in a silent tug-of-war, and I was already losing ground. Our first dance was meant to be a dream, but instead, it revealed the widening chasm. The song, a melody I had chosen months ago for its tenderness, suddenly sounded cruelly ironic. We moved together physically, but there was distance in every step. Terry's whispered words only deepened the ache. "So, Mrs. Karen," he teased lightly, "ready for forever?" Forever, the word echoed, heavy with doubt. I wanted to laugh, to lean in and tell him of my fears, that forever felt fragile already, but instead, I smiled weakly, clinging to the fragile hope that maybe this unease was just the exhaustion of the day. I didn't know then that it was the first crack in the foundation of our marriage. When we left the reception and returned to the house I had bought, my pride, my independence, it felt like a promise of a fresh beginning. I had always envisioned this home as the canvas on which Terry and I would paint our future, but before long, that canvas became smudged with intrusion and disapproval. Melissa lived only a short drive away, yet she appeared at our doorstep almost daily. At first, I tried to welcome her. Hospitality was in my nature, and I wanted her to feel included, but her visits quickly soured. She commented on everything, my cooking, too salty. "Dear, but don't worry, practice makes perfect. The decor, interesting choice of tiles, though most people would prefer something more neutral. Even the way I organized my bookshelves." Each remark was coded in politeness but sharp enough to cut. Terry's attempts to intervene were feeble. He'd chuckle awkwardly and say, "That's just Mom being Mom," as if that excused the constant critiques. His reassurance rang hollow, and I began to realize that my marriage wasn't a partnership, it was a trio, with Melissa silently dictating the terms. The breaking point came on a quiet afternoon when Melissa showed up not with a casserole or flowers, but with luggage. Large, heavy suitcases thudded against the hardwood floor as she breezed past me. "I'll be staying here now," she announced casually, settling into my cherished reading nook by the window, the very space where I sought solitude after long days of designing. I turned to Terry, my heart pounding. "Terry, did you know about this? Shouldn't we have decided this together?" His eyes avoided mine. "Mom's getting older, Karen, she shouldn't be alone. Family takes care of family." The way he said family stung, as though I wasn't part of it. And what am I then? My voice cracked. "Don't we owe it to each other to build our life first?" But he shook his head. You don't understand. I owe her. She sacrificed so much for me. Sacrifice. That word became his shield, and Melissa his anchor. From that day forward, my home stopped being mine. Every corner bore her presence. My reading nook was cluttered with her belongings. The kitchen became a war zone of disapproving glances, and Terry aligned more with her than with me. And just as I began to fear I was losing myself entirely, fate threw another twist, a pregnancy test. 2 bold lines staring back at me. I should have been elated, overwhelmed with joy. Instead, I sat alone on the bathroom floor, shaking, because this child wouldn't just be mine and Terry's, it would also be Melissa's next project. When I told Terry, his response was lukewarm. Well, that's something, he said, already distracted by a renovation idea his mother had suggested. And when Melissa found out, she practically claimed ownership of my pregnancy. From my diet to my sleep, from baby names to doctor's visits, she assumed control. You're eating that? No wonder women today have such difficult labors, she scoffed. Pregnancy is not an illness, Karen, she lectured when I asked for rest. It's no excuse for laziness. Each word chipped away at me. Terry's silence during her tirades was worse than the insults themselves. His refusal to defend me left me stranded, a guest in my own home, a stranger in my own marriage. The final blow came one evening over dinner. Melissa ridiculed the name I had lovingly chosen for our child. Oh, no, that won't do at all. Too strange. You'll thank me later. Something inside me broke. My patience, my endurance, my silence, I let them all go. Enough, Melissa, this is my child, I will decide how to name them. Her shock was palpable, but so was her fury. And Terry? He rushed to smooth things over, urging me to calm down, as though my insistence on basic respect was unreasonable. That night, lying awake, one truth rang louder than all the arguments. I wasn't just fighting for space in my home anymore. I was fighting for my identity, for my dignity, for the right to raise my child without being overshadowed. And that battle had only just begun. I've had enough, I declared, my patience finally eroded to nothing. My voice, trembling but unyielding, cut through the suffocating tension in the room. Melissa's eyes widened in outrage, her face twisting as though my insistence on making choices about my own life were an unforgivable insult. To her, I wasn't a wife or a mother-to-be, I was merely an obstacle to control. What hurt far more than her venom was Terry's silence, his weak attempts at mediation, so often laced with subtle dismissals, suggesting I was too emotional or overthinking, now felt like outright betrayal. Each word he didn't say, each defense he didn't give, carved another crack in the fragile foundation of our marriage. And I felt it. I was no longer just Karen, the architect, the woman with dreams of love and a home filled with warmth. I was a stranger in my own life, shrinking daily beneath Melissa's shadow. It wasn't just about baby names anymore, it was about reclaiming everything Melissa had stolen piece by piece, my autonomy, my dignity, my sense of belonging. One evening, after yet another confrontation, I caught sight of my reflection. The gleam of my wedding ring seemed dull, lifeless, as if it mirrored the emptiness growing inside me. The woman staring back at me wasn't the confident dreamer who had walked down the aisle months before, she was someone unraveling, someone fighting desperately not to vanish completely. Melissa's cruelty escalated until one night, during another tense dinner, she crossed an unforgivable line. Between bitter critiques of my cooking and sly remarks about how real wives knew how to manage a household, she turned her gaze on me and sneered, "If you can't even keep a home together, how do you expect to raise a child?" Her words sliced through me, raw and merciless, and Terry, my husband, my supposed partner, sat in silence, no protest, no defense, just quiet acceptance, as if her insult carried truth. That silence broke me. "Step it up," I snapped, my voice quivering with fury as I rose from the table. "I've been carrying our child, managing this house, and enduring endless attacks from your mother, while you sit there, watching me crumble, and you dare to tell me to step it up?" The room froze, their stunned expressions burned into my memory, but I no longer cared. For too long, I had allowed myself to be diminished, my voice drowned out by Melissa's dominance and Terry's cowardice, but not anymore. "I'm done, I can't do this anymore." The clarity in my words startled even me. It was as though years of suppressed anger and grief had crystallized in a single moment, cutting through everything that had held me back. My voice, though laced with tears, carried the conviction of a woman who had reached her breaking point. I refuse to raise my child in a home where his mother is treated like nothing. If this is what you call family, then count me out. The finality of my declaration echoed through the dining room like a verdict. I stood, chair scraping sharply against the floor, and moved toward the door. Melissa spat venom, her words cold and deliberate. And where do you think you're going? This is Terry's house, not yours. I stopped, hand on the doorknob, and turned to face her. My tears had dried into resolve. No, Melissa, this house is mine. I bought it, I built this life, and I decide who stays. Her face drained of color, but I didn't wait for a reply. Terry's voice rose behind me, desperate, pleading, Karen, please, let's just talk. But I was past negotiation, past compromise, past silence. There's nothing left to discuss, I whispered, my voice low but final. The cold air that met me outside felt like freedom, biting against my skin yet clearing my mind. Each step I took away from that house felt like a release, even as grief threatened to pull me under. My heart raced with fear of the unknown, but also with a fierce determination, would no longer be a prisoner in my own life. The walk to my parents' home blurred with exhaustion, my body weakened by stress and pregnancy. Nearing their doorstep, I stumbled and fell hard onto the icy pavement. Pain shot through me, but it paled in comparison to the turmoil within. Gritting my teeth, I pulled myself up, clutching my belly protectively. That fall didn't weaken me, it solidified my resolve. My parents' faces filled with alarm as they opened the door, rushing me inside. Concerned whispers, hurried movements, and then the sterile lights of a hospital surrounded me. Lying in the hospital bed, I realized with a painful clarity, there was no going back. My marriage, my home, my illusions, they were gone, but in their place was something stronger, something unbreakable. When my mother finally asked, Karen, what's your plan now? The answer came to me with surprising certainty. I don't know every step yet, Mom, but I know one thing, I can't go back, not now, not ever. And with that, a new plan began to form. In the days that followed, I found strength in action. With my parents' unwavering support, I consulted a lawyer. Divorce papers, custody petitions, financial demands, they became the blueprint of my escape, my path to freedom. Melissa and Terry received their notices within the week. For once, the law was on my side, giving me the voice they had stolen. The courtroom became the final battlefield. Melissa's bravado faltered under scrutiny, her excuses falling apart. Terry looked hollow, regret etched across his face, but regret could not undo the years of silence. The judge's words were final. I was granted full custody, child support, and the eviction of Melissa from my home. Walking out of that courtroom, I felt the weight of chains breaking. Terry called after me, remorse in his voice. Karen, I never wanted this to happen. I met his gaze one last time, neither did I, but love without respect isn't love, it's a cage, and I won't live in one anymore. Melissa's eyes sought mine, searching for forgiveness, but I gave her nothing, she had stolen too much of me already. Outside, the sun was brighter than I remembered, the air crisper, the world more alive. My mother wrapped me in her arms and whispered, "You're free now." For the first time in years, I believed it. That night, alone in my quiet home, I placed a hand on my stomach and whispered to my unborn child, "It's just us now, and we're going to be okay." The scars Melissa and Terry left behind would remain, but they no longer defined me. They were proof of my survival, reminders of the strength I had found when I thought I had none left. This was my new beginning, not born out of despair, but out of choice, out of the unwavering determination to live a life defined not by shadows, but by light.